Uh, all right, well, good morning again. So you are by now, if you've been here the last few weeks, aware that we are in the book of Genesis. And we're going through the book of Genesis to see how relevant this ancient text is for making sense of the world that we live in, both the good and the bad. And that's why we've been calling the series The Reason Why, because it answers questions that every one of us grapples with. People inside and outside of the church have these same questions. And as Christians, we have the blessing of being able to point to the answers to the questions of our age, because the one who created the reality that we live in is the one who told us what it means in the scriptures. Last week, we looked at the exact same text that we're looking at today. This is a sermon sequel. It's a part 2. We'll have to decide whether the sequels are better than the originals when it comes to sermons, but it rarely is the case when it comes to movies. Last week, we saw the part 1 of this great paragraph describing the creation of man in the image of God, establishing the reason why all people, male, female, all ethnicities, all ages of life, from unborn to elderly, infirm, and everyone else, possesses intrinsic worth and dignity. The reason that every person is valuable and precious is because every person is stamped with the image of God. And that is so important because outside of the knowledge that we bear the image of God, no secular or God-denying theory about what makes a person unique and dignified has yet been presented that does not shrink the number of people that are worthy of love and dignity. And so we hold to the image of God because we hold that all people are precious. This week, we are going to be looking at the same passage, and we are going to recognize another critical truth that our world struggles with. We are going to look at the reason why all people are purpose-driven. We're a couple slides. Yeah, the reason why humanity is purpose-driven. If you wanted to get into kind of the existential mind of most people, I think that the question that is just kind of always going on inside of us, underneath us, is why do I exist? What am I here for? Now, certainly some stages of life make that question sharper and more agonizing. I mean, I remember when I was in high school and college, that question was crushing me because everybody was asking, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And it was like, if I don't have a good answer to that question, yeah, I'm worthless. I don't know who I am. But it also hits you in your 30s, and it hits you in your 40s. And I'm just going to trust as I look around, it doesn't stop there. Why do I exist? What am I here for? Those gnaw at us at different degrees, but all through life. And if you look at the world, there aren't very many good answers provided by the world. You know, there's your stock answer of, well, you know, make money, or your purpose is to be successful, or maybe your purpose is to be the best. But as you live more and more of life, you discover how hollow just having the most stuff really is. Or how defeating it is when you put all of your energy to being the best to find out you're second at best. Because the situation just keeps putting you into a bigger pool and a bigger pool, and all of a sudden what you have given all of your energy to puts you somewhere back in the middle. So the answers that the world gives for your purpose, they don't last, they don't hold. I have the, I guess, privilege of doing funerals. No, it is a privilege. But one of the parts of funerals is the obituary, the eulogy. And you'll get all of the closest people of a recently deceased person to say, who was this person? What was their life all about? And it all gets reduced down to a couple paragraphs. And honestly, when there is no relationship to the church, you hear these stories, and what comes across is how empty it is. That this person's purpose basically was they made the best chocolate chip cookie. Or, boy, they had an amazing golf swing. Or their sense of humor was wonderful. And those become the essence of an entire life of 70 or 80 years. An obituary, a eulogy shows that we can so easily give our entire life to forgetfulness and vapidness and easy replaceability. In the world, though, if you venture out far enough, you'll see that the idea of a purpose-driven life even confronts a negative answer, which is always on the fringe of intruding into our thoughts. A guy named Dan Brown, I don't exactly know who he is, he declared it quite matter-of-factly. He says, I am a cosmic accident, and soon I will be dead. And if we adopt a materialistic, naturalistic worldview, that is the best answer we can give. That we come from nothing and we go to nothing. And if nothing is on both sides of you, you can't make your life really mean anything. You will end up being nothing. That is the horrible undertow of a completely materialistic, naturalistic worldview. But we can't believe that is true. Not because it's offensive, but because our makeup just says, no, I have in myself a sense of purpose. Why does the question, what is my purpose, haunt us so much if ultimately we are not made for purpose? You see, it is the Bible that answers, again, the reality that we all know. Inside of our hearts is the question, what is my purpose? And why is it there if we are only cosmic accidents? The Bible, once again, is the place that explains why we are the way we are. Because it tells us that the reason why deep in your heart is the understanding that you are made for purpose and a search for that purpose is because you were created with purpose. And as we look at this passage again, we are going to see that there are three purposes that all humans have because they are image bearers. And I think that this text is going to be a revelation and a relief for all of us. Because even as we have grown up with the scriptures, even as many in this room know this passage, many remain alienated to their core purpose. Many remain separated from a sense of purpose. You are still in an existential crisis of what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Even though God has given us such a clear purpose. So my goal today as we go through these three purposes that all humans have as image bearers is to help us understand what our purpose is. To help us restore ourselves to living for our purpose, and to capture again the joy that our purpose is meant to give us. So let's grasp each of these purposes that all humans have as image bearers. I'll review them quickly. The first purpose is that we are made to rule. The second, that we are made to represent. And the third is that we are made to relate. We're going to go through these piece by piece. But let's look now at we are made to rule. Here is something so amazing as you read Genesis 1. God, in all of his infinite wisdom and his infinite power, makes this beautiful creation from nothing, fills it with the beautiful sounds of waves crashing and birds chirping, of animals walking to and fro in the meadows, and all of this life everywhere underneath a canopy of stars that are gorgeous and uncountable. God has created all of this wonderful creation. And then he makes man. And the thing that he makes man for is to have dominion over this creation, to rule over this creation. I mean, what an incredible gift is contained in the words, "Let us make man in our image and let him have dominion over all this creation." God gave that to us. All you have to do is think about how easy it is to hand over your keys to your car, to your new 16-year-old, to recognize what a prodigious amount of grace God has shown to his newly created humanity to say, it's all yours. It's all yours. I'm putting you in charge of all of this. This is an incredible privilege, and I believe the privilege is caught for us in David's Psalm 8. I want to read verses 3 through 9. This captured David. "When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the Son of Man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor. You have given him dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, and also beasts of the field, the birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea, whatever passes along the paths of the seas. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth." I just marvel at this. God gave us this creation and said, "You will be my vice regents." And so as we understand this command to have dominion, to rule, we're going to break that out into two fundamental aspects. God has given us the charge of ruling this creation through work and through creation care. I want to look at each of these two attributes of work. I want to look at both of these, but first I want to focus on work. And as we look at work, I want to divide that idea of work into two attributes of work as image bearers. Two attributes of work as image bearers. First, its nobility, and also its reward. And I think we need to grasp this because work has become almost a bad four-letter word in our lives, right? Work wears us out. Work puts us in front of people we don't like. Work created bosses who are terrible. And so work often has a drudgery about it, a necessary evil to it. That if we could really craft our own life, the first thing we would do is scuttle the idea of work, right? We're all working for retirement. This idea that there is a day where I am beholden to nobody, I do what I want to do, and my hobbies are king, right? But as we look at our creation, we are created to work. And so as we look at this, we see that work is meant to be both noble and rewarding. Now, when I say noble, look at Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. God gave us work. Work comes from God. But here is maybe even more fascinating truth about work. The work that Adam does involves naming and gardening and separating and all of these different things. As we look at the first work that Adam, or the first man, does, he is doing the things in a human sense that were patterned for him already by God in how he created all things. And this is fascinating. Work, our work, is patterned after our Creator. So James Hamilton says this. He says, work is neither punishment nor cursed drudgery, but an exalted, godlike activity. We work because we bear the image of a God who works. You see, as you read Genesis 1 and 2, God creates everything from mental effort. I mean, he clearly has a C-suite where he just kind of gives orders and things happen. But he also creates by getting his hands dirty. When we read the creation of Adam in Genesis 2, the description is that God gets his hands into the dirt to form man. Now, of course, there's some figurativeness there, but both the dirty work of our hands and the mental effort of our minds, God nobilizes by putting both of them in his work of creation. You see, in work, we image God. And what is more noble than that? Your job is a crown of nobility. The second thing about this is that it is rewarding. All the work that we do is truly about having dominion and subduing this creation. All work that we do is about keeping the world functioning and flourishing. If it's not about keeping the world functioning and flourishing, it probably doesn't pay. But the reason that we're paid is because there is some piece of this gigantic world that needs someone to do it, and it's important enough that they get paid. And so the whole world needs us in our jobs so that the world can function and flourish. And so whatever job we are given fulfills our calling, our literal vocation to have dominion and to subdue this creation. I mean that, all jobs. As I have gone through an insufferable number of snow days this school year, I have a new hero. It's the bus driver. The bus driver that shows up and takes my 3 cacophonous kids away for 8 hours is helping the dominion and the subduing of creation. There is flourishing and functioning that is happening because that bus driver shows up. And so it is a noble, most noble profession. The diaper changers of the world. I mean, maybe that's the most menial, embarrassing task you could imagine. Ripping off a stinky diaper, cleaning up a stinky bottom, and putting on a new one. But thank God for diaper changers, because the world is not going to function or flourish if that's not happening. Accountants, lawyers, they all have their places. They all are accomplishing something to allow this world to function and flourish. Every job has this part of it. And so you have the rewarding honor of being part of having dominion and subduing the creation. And when we recognize that our real boss is not the jerk that gives us all the orders. Our real boss is the one who gave us this commandment to have dominion and subdue the creation. Every job is truly a job that serves God. That's your ultimate employer. That is your ultimate boss. Our work ultimately serves God. And that means that these words given to us by Paul should reframe what we really think we are doing at our work. Paul describes work this way in Colossians chapter 3, verse 23. Whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. You see, your ultimate reward because God created work is not a paycheck or a promotion, but God's delight and His glory in your job done well. Because you work for Him and you image Him in your work. So that brings a question. Does our work honor our Maker? That is the real question that we need to hold to the work that we do, the attitude that we do it, and the way that we demonstrate our image bearing. Does our work honor our Maker? So this privilege of rule involves our work, but then there is this other aspect of creation care. Creation care is given to us to have dominion, to look after all of this beautiful creation. And what a magnificent creation God has given us. What does he say after He has put down His tools, figuratively speaking? In verse 31, God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. All of this creation that God made is good. It delights His eye. It is a place of satisfaction that reflects His glory, that testifies to His majesty. His creation delights Him, and it's this creation that He has said, keep it. Keep it for me. Preserve it. Increase it. The first commandment that is given to us is take care of this place. Before any other commandment of the Bible is, okay, take care of it. We are created as stewards, as caretakers. Now imagine that you have just turned 16 and your dad hands over keys to a beautiful new car. Something my boy knows nothing about. But suppose there is a dad that does that. Gives you his wonderful car and says, I want this to be your car. How do you treat that car? It's not yours, but how do you treat that car? Oh, you treat it very carefully. You love it. You reflect your appreciation. You wash it. You maintain it. You recognize it's yours by gift. And so you keep it in a pristine case. Because if you don't, you know that your dad will say, that's the last one of those. Or your dad might feel hurt by all of that. So God has handed over to us the keys to the Maserati. Right? How have we done? How have we done with caring for this creation? Every metric of creation care, from pollution to biodiversity to deforestation to climate change, is a failing report of creation care. And it is terrifying that the consequences of our neglect, of our rough treatment, of our abuse of this beautiful car are accumulating to the point that life may not be the same quality of life for 1 or 2 generations from us. How have we done? Now, last week, we preached that being made in the image of God is a call to be pro-life, to be defenders of life. And that got very little controversy. This week, side by side of the dignity of the image of God is the call to care for creation. And yet most of us separate these. We treat one as very, 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 very important, and the other as very, very optional. Why? Why do we not cherish and concern ourselves with creation care the same as we do with pro-life? Why do we separate them? I put up here a picture of, next picture, of Wall-E, which I think is a hilariously uncomfortable movie to watch because I am turning into Wall-E, or the people on the, Wall-E reflects what I think is one of the most accurate sci-fi movies of all time. We are allowing creation to be destroyed because we have unbridled greed and consumption that is controlling us, and we don't want to stop. And so there is inside of us a dominion that wants to dominate, that wants to say, this is not this is not God's creation, this is mine to exploit. We also recognize that in the political sphere, one issue is very much a right issue and one is very much a left issue. But both are Christian issues. And so this warns us of fitting our faith to platforms. When we say we are kingdom-centered, we are saying that we don't fit in any platform of man. We fit the platform of God. What can we do? What can we do? Just a couple questions. What is one way you can make creation better than how you found it? What is one way you can reduce your consumerism? Are one thing going to do much in the end? No, these are only beginning points. But I want to ask this overarching question to spur you to think about this maybe more than you are prone to. Will our creation care honor our Maker? Do you really think the reasons that you have for neglecting this will stand up to the gaze of your Creator who says, what did you do with taking care of my creation? So we are made to rule. Second, we are made to represent. Now, when this phrase, the image of God, is used, we can go back and see similar language in other ancient Near Eastern documents. And these images that are used in other cultures are often reflected as statues of the king. And the idea is that the king would make a statue of himself, of his image, and place it in all the far corners of his kingdom, to place his image all over the face of his kingdom, to say, I am your king, I am the ruler. And so wherever he placed his likeness, wherever he placed his image, he was representing himself as basically this is your king and this is my territory. They were set to make known the king to the ends of the kingdom, as Old Testament commentator Gordon Wenham states. Whereas Egyptian writers often spoke of kings as being in God's image, they never referred to other people in this way. It appears that the Old Testament has democratized this old idea. It affirms that not just a king, but every man and woman bears God's image and is his representation on earth. You see, the reason that we are given the image of God is partly so that all of creation can see us as image bearers and know the true king who rules all land, right? Image bearers, it means that we are God's representatives. We are sons and daughters of the king. This is an incredible gift to say we bear the image just like a son bears the image of his father. With the image upon us, we live in the world like sons and daughters of the king. I love being a dad to a girl because as she grew up, she went through a phase that most girls go through, this princess phase. Every show was about discovering that you were a princess and you didn't know it, but now you are, and so you live in the castle. And this princess magical thinking lives in most little girls. And I kind of wonder if that's a vestige of the knowledge that we were created to be kings and queens. We were created as princesses and princes. Because what the image of God is telling us is that we have royalty in our genes. And when God commands us to be fruitful and multiply, what he is saying is, take my image and reproduce it and fill the whole earth with the image of God. It is a way of saying that I want my holy rule, my goodness, my love to cover my entire realm by use multiplying image bearers to every corner of the earth. You see, we are to exist as image bearers to make known the true king to the ends of the earth. The result of what we should be as dwellers in this earth and bearers of God's image is what it says in Psalm 8, verse 9. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You see, if we are fulfilling the image-bearing responsibility of representing God, then the fruit of the creation around us is the fruit that says, how majestic is the name of your God. What an amazing God you have, because I see him through your righteousness and your holiness. Friends, have we done that? Have we represented our Maker? Have we filled our areas, our domains with the knowledge of him? You see, we can see when we ask this question the sinfulness of sin. Because the sinfulness of sin is revealed in the fact that though we were created to be image bearers, pointers, reflectors of his glory, sin has made us focus our entire existence on ourselves, on our own glory, on our own will, on our own way. What do we reflect? We are not representatives of his holiness. We are representatives of rebellion. We are representatives of being the captain of our own ship, doing what is right in our own eyes. You see, sin is fundamentally insubordination. Saying, no, that's not what I'm going to make my life about. My life is not going to be driven and defined by reflecting my Creator. My life is going to be driven and defined about making my own name great. I want the dominion of Nathan Edwards to point back to Nathan Edwards. And that is insubordination. It means no matter what good and proper thing we are doing, if we are stealing the arrow from God to ourselves, we are in sin. Sin defies his authority. It steals his glory. Sin is not just the actions. We can't say, well, I'm not a sinner because I've not committed adultery or stolen or blasphemed today. Sin is in the assumption that we all start our days with, I am the captain of my ship. This day is about me. This is YOLO. And I will get my attention, I will get my pleasure, I will get my fame, I will get my honor. That is the beginning of sin. Whether or not you're doing stuff that's wretched or not. Sin is mutiny. I mean, you can have a fully functioning ship at sea with the captain in jail, right? But it's mutiny. Even as well as it may be functioning, it is still defiance of the authority that was given to it. And that is what sin is. We are made to represent, and as we look at our lives, we must recognize that is not our chief representation. So we are made to rule, we are made to represent, and third, we are made to relate. Being created in the Imago Dei, the third purpose that I want us to grasp is that we have been uniquely made to know God. Being made in the Imago Dei, we have been uniquely made to know God. Look at verse 28. Verse 28 says, and God said, and God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it. This is the first time in all of creation that God spoke to one of his creation. He doesn't speak to the animals. He only speaks to man. And the reason that he speaks to man is because the Imago Dei allows God to have a relationship with humans. God made humans in his image so that we might enjoy a relationship with him. That's probably the biggest thing that separates us from all animal kind, is the image allows us to hear from God and to speak to God and have a relationship with God. You see, we were made to live with him and to serve him. That's our chief purpose. And it is a great joy. There is no greater joy given to man than to be told, you were made to live with me, know me, and serve me. I want to give you a picture of that. In Genesis chapter 3, verse 8, we are told this. They, being Adam and Eve, heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. God was the neighbor to Adam and Eve. What this statement says, God was just walking in the garden in the cool of the day. The garden that Adam and Eve are blessed to live in is this picture. The life with God has fellowship and knowledge and intimacy and access and presence and enjoyment. And it's all with God. And it's easy. It's natural. It's common. Like you take for granted. Yeah, I'm going to go spend the day with God. I'm going to ask him about the farthest star. I'm going to learn the way things are. I'm going to behold his creation with him. Being with God, relating with God was designed to be easy and natural and common. But then verse 3:8 goes on. After God is walking in the garden in the cool of the day, the man and his wife rushed out to him and said, "Let's spend the day together." No. We read the exact opposite. The man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. This God who made himself there easy, natural, and common to fellowship and to share all of life with, the first parents hid from. Why? Why would we ever hide from such a joyous gift? We hide because sin has come into the relationship. They have sinned. They have violated their calling, their purpose of bearing the image of God, and now they are bearing the image of sin. And sin fills this relationship with fear and shame and distance. And so because the image bearers have gone from godly rulers and godly representatives to images of sin, they are afraid and they hide. Does that experience with God still haunt you? Now, let me ask you, how would you feel if God literally dropped in unexpectedly on your life? How would you feel if God just strolled into your job and observed your work? How would you feel if God just rang the doorbell and saw your house right now in its state of consumerism? How would you feel if in the middle of your social media post, God starts commenting on what you're pointing all the people in your network to? Would you feel, oh, the joy of the fellowship and the intimacy and the access of God? Or do you secretly hope these things are hidden? Do you secretly still want a good portion of your life hidden from God? That is the evidence of the stain and the corruption of sin in your life. That you're not exactly sure you want God walking in the cool of your garden all the time, anywhere, any place. Because we know that if he saw some of the things that we don't bring to him, that we don't lift up to him, that we don't ask for his guidance for, or that we don't concern ourselves with whether it glorifies him, we know that there is a lot in us that continues to hide. Now, here is the real issue. And this is the reason that we feel alienated. This is the reason why we continue to struggle with our purpose, even though God has given us three magnificent, fulfilling, joyous purposes of ruling, representing, and relating. The reason that we feel alienated, that we feel the drudgery of work, that we feel the preference of our consumerism, and that we are not so sure that we want God walking in the cool of the garden of all of our life. As sin separates us from God, it also separates us from our purpose-filled life. As sin separates us from God, it separates us from our purpose-filled life. You see, when we have sin between us and God, we also have separation from our purpose, which comes from God and is supposed to be drawing us closer to God. So sin is alienating us from our purposes. Rather than being purpose-filled, we find more ways to hide. How do we hide? We don't necessarily hide behind shrubs and bushes. Here's how we hide today. We hide by living anxious, by living busy, frivolous, distracted, materialistic, alienated, and unfulfilled lives. Have any of those descriptors hit you? Do you relate to those? That is part of your soul hiding. Because if sin was not in the picture, you would not be any of those things. You would be fulfilling your purpose and experiencing the God-sized joy that is meant for His image bearers as they fulfill His purpose. Beloved, we don't have to hide. We don't have to live in these coverings. We have access because the God who made us with purpose has come to restore us to our purpose. Peter tells us in his letter, "For Christ also suffered once for sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, that He might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the Spirit." He was righteous, dying for the unrighteous. He did that to bring us to God, to take the separation of our sin. This is what Christ has done. He has taken the separation. He has removed your sin. He has returned you to God. Do you see what this means? It means that you can stop hiding. You can stop hiding. How do you do that? You have to look at your shame and your guilt in these areas and preach the gospel. Christ has paid for this sin. Christ has removed this shame. And come back to God. Enjoy the fruit of Christ's redemption. You see, the gospel frees you to live without fear. To live without fear the purpose that you were made for. To rule, to represent, and to relate. I know that the majority of you have put your faith in the gospel in the past, and the gospel has saved you. But I am asking you today, put the gospel in the place where you are hiding. Put the gospel in the place where you are shrinking from the thought, I don't want God there. Let Jesus' righteousness pay for the unrighteousness that has you hiding. Have Jesus take the distance that you are putting between God and yourself by the fact that He covered it with His blood. Beloved, this is the gospel for you today. Preach it to where you are hiding from Him. And when you experience His forgiveness, you will experience your purpose and joy welling up again. Amen?